Hey, this is Thomas from Luminous, and today I want to talk to you about a very important topic concerning red light therapy, and this is the measurement of red light therapy devices. There has been a lot of discussion going on recently on Facebook groups, on discussion boards about how scientists and also companies measure red light therapy devices and red light and near-infrared light in general. And the very interesting conclusion was that there is no standardized way so far. So this means, especially in science, you can see from more than 4,000 papers, scientific studies, articles and so on, that a lot of different measurement procedures have been used so far, meaning they go from scientists take the information that is provided by manufacturers, scientists measure in lab settings, scientists use light measurement devices like, for example, a lot of them use solar power meters that are used for measuring daylight as the base for their studies. And also, red light therapy companies use various different measurement techniques. But what you can see with companies is that here the golden standard of measurement basically so far seems to be measuring with solar power meters that are used for measuring sunlight basically. And recently a dear colleague, Andrew, he brought up the issue and said, hey, maybe, especially with companies, the measurement of red and near-infrared light with solar power meters is not the best way. Because maybe what if the error that we produce by using these devices that are basically built to measure full spectrum white light is too big to measure such narrow wavelengths such as the 660 nanometer range or the 850 nanometer range of light. And actually he was quite right, because he did a test where he measured devices in a lab setting, measured them with a solar power meter and measured them with a laser power meter that offers a correction factor for these wavelengths. And he came to the conclusion that the measurement with a solar power meter gives quite a high error in terms of intensity. Sometimes almost double of the intensity of the real intensity of light, especially if you go into the more near-infrared area of light, so into the more infrared light, as you would need to apply a bigger or a heavier correction factor here. And this is very interesting, and this is also, I would say, a great question right now, what to do with this information, because as we see in scientific studies, a lot of scientists use devices like solar power meters. And so also in the measurement of the intensities in the studies, there could or is actually a really big measurement error. And so should we use the intensities they produce that are measured with solar power meters, also measure our devices with solar power meters so we can match these studies, or do something different as we say, okay, the values are not correct? And how do we go from here? We thought a lot about these things lately, about how in this, because red light therapy is still in a very experimental stage, especially for us as biohackers that want to try it out, not in lab settings, but on a daily basis. And so what we really, so far, we all do is experimenting with our bodies in a, I would say, really safe setting, because we know that red and near-infrared light, I mean, you really have to do something really, really wrong to get very bad effects. I mean, we do not know everything, but it seems safe so far, or at least almost safe. And so, yeah, what do we do with this information? And what we thought about is, we as a red light therapy company, And with our measurements or intensity measurements, I mean, we have various measurements also done with solar power meters under lab settings and so on. And what values are the real values? And I would say the only thing, or what we came to the conclusion is the only thing that we can do for you guys out there is that we provide you with the most comprehensive and transparent information possible. Meaning that we do not only want to offer you like lab setting measurements, because then if you're looking at studies that are done with solar power meters, then the measurements, even though if they are correct, they wouldn't apply for this certain focus field that you have, for example. So what we want to do, or what is our conclusion to this, is that we want to offer you measurements done on the lab settings, measurements done with solar power meters, measurements done with laser power meters, and this should be the base for you to experiment and for you to, if you're reading studies and the study suggests or used a solar power meter, then use these measurements from our side. And if they used like the real readings from lab settings, use these settings, or use these settings as base. And this is what we want to give you. Also, just to show you that recently Andrew came up, the guy I talked to you before, came up with a very interesting and easy method also going forward to correctly measure devices with a laser power meter, with a quite cheap laser power meter, is this here. It's actually basically something very similar to a solar power meter, but the big difference here is they offer a correction factor, meaning that with the solar power meter you would just integrate all of this and use the calibration basically for sunlight, and with a laser power meter you basically use just those wavelength bandwidths and can correct, for example, for 850 nanometer. And for us so far, this very interesting hypothesis of him shows very true, and we can easily measure also in non-super lab settings. We can easily measure intensities and variations and so on. And this for us right now proves as a very important thing. So, as I said, going forward, what we want to do is provide you with the most transparent information possible, and also maybe in the next year or so, together with other authorities in the field, come up with something like a guideline on what measurements you can use, you should compare. And that way we want to foster a community work and allow you to take what science suggests, apply it to yourself, adapt it, and discuss it within communities. Because so far, with so varied measurement procedures, this is really not possible. And so far, it's really pseudoscience, and we want to leverage that and give you or allow you to be much more scientific and much more detailed in what and how you do it. So, from me, this is from me everything for now, and I hope this information was valuable to you. I would love to get your feedback. What do you think about the whole topic of red light therapy measurement, and discuss it with you further. So, see you soon. Ciao.